An empty weekend, favorable instabilities. That means it's time to spend an unhealthy amount of time inside Siren's Reef. Probably the longest and most technically difficult fractal there is. I had to cut one day short because I couldn't get past Calix, but luckily the next day the instabilities were also okay enough for me to attempt it. Both my Ranger and Thief are in Cleric's gear, because it's more important to survive and use the other weapons they have available to them to clear the Fractal. For the Ranger that is the pet, and for the Thief it's the ghost cannons. And for the times that it does matter, I'm able to use the Ascended set. But we'll get to that moment later. The first part is a slow grind, killing all the dinosaurs, and it's a good indication of how tanky the build is. The dinosaurs do get buffed up by no pain no gain though. Apparently there's a bug that the boons the enemies get scales with your boon duration. And because I am planning on buffing my pet with lots of boons, my boon duration is higher than normal. But no biggie, this is the easy part, killing the little dinos and then the big dino at the end. Here's our first encounter with the ghosts. There are 5 ghosts. The big one, the elite quartermaster, is probably the most impactful one. It provides AoE protection, stability. It has an attack that slows you, and it has an attack that will just do a lot of damage. Both the slow and the big damage attack provide aegis for all the ghosts, just like a normal guardian would. There's the lightning wraiths. Their attacks don't really deal much damage and they're pretty slow, but they give themselves quickness with the lightning attack and then they just become normal. They're not really an issue. There's also the grenadiers. The grenadiers throw mines. Some give vulnerability and some give a little bit of chill, but like the lightning wraiths, they're not really doing anything much. There's the phantom raiders. They can throw an anchor which cripples you, and they have the triangle cone attack. If you stand in it, you will get dazed, but the daze does nothing, and the damage itself is easily mitigated. The actual dangerous ghost is the swashbuckler. For some reason, the swashbuckler does like 3 times as much damage as all the other ghosts. It has an attack that will provide a very long-lasting bleed. It attacks fast enough that it goes through blind fields. It has 2 throw attacks, one that does not do a lot of damage but gives weakness, and one that sends out 5 daggers. And if you get hit by one of them, or all of them, you will get chilled and dazed. This daze is more like a stun, because although you can move around, you can't dodge anymore, which is important for later. This means that swashbucklers are enemy number 1, and after that it's the quartermaster, and all the others can be outlasted with the cleric's gear. This brings us to our first boss, Blasting Peter. Peter lays down mines on you if you're standing in his arena, and the mines can only be dealt with by either stepping in them and exploding them, or using an invulnerability skill like Elixir S to get rid of them. In lower tiers I used Engineer to do just that, but it's a bit too risky. There's a better strat, which is shoot a cannon on Thief, only using skill 2, and then back away and stealth safely out of reach, and then go back in for the cannon. If you're too close and Peter can't reach you, he will do a long-ranged damage over time fire attack. And the reason we stealth is because some of the ghosts will come up and try to kill you. You can't also stealth too long, because then Peter will just reset like any other Guild Wars 2 mob. Keep doing the rhythm and it shouldn't be that big of an issue. Also try not to get overconfident. I had an attempt die like that, just on 1%, and skill 1 doesn't really do that much. It's more for ghost cleanup. Now that Peter's out of the way, it's quite a struggle to go through the pocket raptors, and we get to the most frustrating and annoying part of this fractal, the treasures. These cursed treasures periodically give out agony. Contrary to what Desta says, this agony is inflicted on a global timer, which means if you pick up the treasure and throw it at the right time, you will not get agony. But it also means that you can just pick up the treasure for the very first time and get agony, even though you had 0 stacks of curse. Technically, it's possible to not use any agony resistance at all, but because it's so unpredictable when the agony occurs, I'm just going on my Ascended set. This fractal is already long enough and not going to risk spending that much time on something random. Although you can't teleport using portals to carry the treasure, you can use the short bow trick, where you shoot the shadow step arrow and then pick up the treasure. I use this to great effect. It speeds up the entire process, and I almost don't get detected at all. But during Treasure 2, I got a bit impatient. No matter, if I got it, I got it. After reaching the ship with your treasure, it's time for the 2 mini-bosses. In my opinion, these are unnecessary and just run out the fractal length. They could have just skipped both of these bosses, especially because they are so frustrating to do. First you have to carry another cursed treasure towards the ship, and then the boss fights start. In the lower tiers I try to just get rid of the ghost at first and then carry over the treasure. However, you need to do it fast, because if you wait too long, new groups of ghosts spawn, and they don't despawn when the boss starts. So you need to do it fast, so you only have the first 3 groups of ghosts spawn, plus the additional 3 from when the fight starts. As I said before, the Quartermaster and the Swashbuckler are the main priorities, and the Grenadiers and the Lighting Rays can just be ignored to a great extent. After the ads are down, then the boss only has one attack that targets you, and it's easy to avoid that. At 50% and lower, there will be a wind blowing. The wind and the occasional Death Blossom may propel you over the edge. If you go too far from the ship, you will be in the mist, and the mist is very deadly. Being in the water is also very deadly. And if you use invulnerabilities or are away for too long from the ship, you will just lose the fight. The ghost will win control back over the ship. So it's important to, well, not get blown over the edge, or Death Blossom over the edge, for that matter. Mad Jack gave me quite a lot of trouble, but Calix was the real roadblock for this Fractal. Calix and the Onslaught. Jack's attacks were not really impactful enough to motivate you to play around him. Calix, however, has just 2 attacks, but they make all the difference in the world. The most obvious one is the Grim Lagoon. You will get an orange circle beneath you. If it fills, then it will drop a lagoon, which gives agony, slow, blind, whatever. And it gives the enemies quickness and protection and something other. Doesn't really matter. Especially the agony and the slow, it can be hurtful. And the other attack is his blunderbuss blowback, which means you can't really hide in the smoke screen or take it slow with the Grim Lagoon. Both of those combined, and with all the ads pummeling you at the start, Calix is just very frustrating. I had to use the invulnerability you get from steel to get around it. However, this also means that getting blown off the ship means that I have to have a steel ready to get back, or the ghost will reclaim it. But after a while I persevered, and which got me to the next segment, the Ghost Onslaught. My method is to shoot down some ghosts at the start, then place a shadow portal near the cannon we are going to use later. Then you have to survive for give or take 30 seconds. Use invulnerability to safely guide all the enemies near the start of the gangplank. The melee ghosts will follow you, but the lightning wraiths and the grenadiers need to be line of sighted to get them there. So you have to stay there for a full 4 seconds or so. After that, you teleport back onto the ship and shoot them with the cannon. I came up with this method in Tier 1 and it served me well in Tier 2, but in Tier 3 and 4 it got a bit more difficult. And I'm not sure if that's because of the no pain no gain instability, because that is present in both Tier 3 and 4 of my attempts, or just because it's the higher tiers. It wasn't easy to do this, especially because there's a 4-minute pre-event every time. The winning move I made to finally get it was to kill the quartermaster ahead of time. 2 will spawn and they can give all the ghosts block, and more often than not the cannon shots were blocked, which resulted in failure. In the winning attempt I killed 1, and that is enough to get to the end boss, Arabella Crowe. At first I thought Arabella Crowe was a walk-in victory. I got through the difficult parts, the mid-bosses and the Onslaught, and Arabella Crowe was just an hour long of victory lap. However, this was sadly not the case. First, Arabella Crowe spawns a group of enemies every 10% of her health. 3 enemies, also at the start. And at 150% she will spawn a quartermaster and 2 more enemies. This means that the start is the most difficult, but that's easy because you can just reset, and at 50%. Arabella has 3 attacks, and one of them insta-kills you, because you have to share those with your friends, but we're alone, so that will insta-kill you. She also spawns a Grim Lagoon, which spawns Agony, so you don't want that. And she also has the Blunderbuss blowback from Calix. She will not use those if she can't see you, and she will only attack players. That's why we brought our ranger. If we stand underneath the gangplank, she won't hit us with any of her 3 attacks, and that gives our pet free range to kill the boss. It will take some time though, it took me an hour for this boss, but slow and steady wins the race, and that's all I care about. So why wasn't it a cakewalk? Well, at 50%, twice in a row, 3 swashbucklers spawned with the quartermaster, and 3 is just too many. I tried twice, but no, to no avail. I did swap out the elite. I had the shout at first, Rampage is 1, but I changed it to the nature spirit for a bit of extra healing, and 3rd time's the charm, and I got lucky, and only 2 spawned, which was still an issue, but we got there. And luckily all the other spawns had less than 3 swashbucklers as well. So to recap, the build for the thief was to survive and use the ghost cannons, and the build for the ranger is to survive and boost the pet as much as you can to make the last boss not take 2 hours. I'm happy that I got it. This fractal was one of the fractals that was not designed to be done solo, but here we are. I'm going to take a small break because you may have seen in the bottom right how long this took. I did take breaks, don't worry, but it was still 2 full days of trying. Yeah, I still have work and stuff. So I'm going to make the most of it and just be happy I finished it. Alright, enjoy the rest of this boss and see you in the next fractal.